Once you've completed working on your image or your design or anything else that you've been working on, it'll be time to save out that work or possibly save a file so that you can come back to it later on. So let's go ahead and talk about saving inside of Photoshop and the different types of file formats. Now, there's an extensive list of file formats, so we won't get into all of them right now, but I'll show you the basics of how we would save out our image. So you can go ahead and follow along or pull up an image if you'd like, and you can go ahead and make some adjustments. Maybe you want to type on it or take your brush tool and color it in. Feel free to do any of that. Now once you're ready to save, we can go up to File, and we have two options here. We have Save and Save As. Now Save is currently not highlighted because it hasn't been saved yet. We've opened it up, but we have not saved it. So we'll need to use the Save As feature. Once we've saved it once, then we can use the save feature to quickly save it without having to worry about going through the Windows Explorer or the macOS Explorer at all. So let's go ahead and click on Save As, and you'll see that it pops out up here. And we can go ahead and save it in the folder that we like. Go ahead and choose your folder. We can give it a name, and we can save the file type. Now it's going to bring up the file type that we brought in, so because we brought a JPG in, that's what it's going to try to save it as. However, we can change that if we want to save this out as, say, a GIF or any of the other ones like a PNG or BMP or TIF. You can do that here, and whenever we make any changes, like say we go to BMP, it'll show that it's going to be saved with that file extension, and then we can hit the save button. Now the other file extension that you're going to be concerned with is the Photoshop file. So that is called a PSD file. That's the most common one that we use. So if I click on that, it'll save it as message.psd, and we can put that in the resources section here, and we can save it as a copy, or we can just create a new one. We can worry about all the color attributes and things later on. That's nothing real important, but we'll just go ahead and click save, and it'll save this out as a Photoshop file. Now the difference between a Photoshop file and say one of these other ones like the original JPG is the JPG cannot be edited. It's going to be an image file with all of your edits already made. The Photoshop file will have all of your layers and adjustments and histories and anything else that you've done to create that file. So if you need to go back and make any adjustments later on, you can do that with the actual Photoshop file. So we'll go ahead and click Save. And now you can see at the top thumbnail, it's changed it from message.jpg to message.psd for the Photoshop document. If we go back to File, you will see that the save is still not highlighted because we really haven't made any changes to be saved. So if we came in here and we took our brush and we scribbled on the image and then we went to File, you can see Save is no longer highlighted, and we can click on it, and the shortcut is Control S. So that's another shortcut you'll probably want to get used to when you're saving your work, so that you can be constantly saving in case your computer crashes. You have your backup copy, or you might come in and do Save As and create another version. Sometimes I'll have Photoshop file number 1, number 2, number 3, and so on. As I make bigger and bigger changes, I'll save out multiple file formats so I can always go back to an earlier version if I needed to. Now, saving is a little different than exporting, and we'll talk about exporting out a little bit later on, but basically exporting is an easier way for you to save out different file formats. For instance, there's a quick export as a PNG file. PNG is a very popular image file type. So here we can instantly send out a PNG file. We can export as, and when we do this, it gives us a bunch of different settings for images such as JPEGs and transparency and GIFs and PNGs and what have you, and then some other options. But for right now, we're just basically saving out our Photoshop file. And then if I come in here and I make these changes and then I close the document and come back later on, all those changes will still be made and I can edit it, especially if I'm doing things like using layers. And I have a bunch of editable layers in here. I save out the Photoshop file and I can always edit those layers and then save out a final image like a JPEG or a BMP or PNG and so forth. So hopefully that explains to you the basics of saving out your files. I'll go ahead and leave this PSD as a resource file just so you can open it up and make sure it's working and everything. But that's the basics of saving. And then later on, when we start working a little more in Photoshop, we'll want to make sure that we're making backup copies and saving our work as we progress.